Yeah, what's up? What's up, guys? We're doing this once more. Bani late night live streaming. I hope you're all doing good. I'm doing great. Because, alright, you can read it. Can you read it? Can you guys read it? What does it say, guys? See, the deadline for complaints expired. So I cannot complain. I'm doing great, I'm doing good, I'm doing good, I'm doing good. I just like for you guys to also be action. So today we'll be looking at OPA, the OPA debate, opening parliament debate. So we'll be at it in no time. We'll be hitting opening of parliament address. We'll be hitting it in no time. But I'm not gonna look at everything because this thing has been streaming for 7 hours. And I'm gonna catch it halfway anyways. It's 4 minutes, it's 4 hours in already. But I'll be skipping now and again. So bear with me, you guys. Bear with me, you guys. Bear with me, you guys. I said, bear with me, you guys. Bear with me. Bear with me. Why is the president not saying anything? Hey, this guy. Is it frozen? So sorry, guys.
They also need to make sure they get the fair share of budget because we are fast growing. And I promise you, it is education, it is health that feel the brunt because we have more and more.
Can I just begin this where this guy starts? What is he talking about? What is he on about? I see smiles on people's faces like they're saying, he front. What is he talking about? What is he talking about? Let's check him out. Yeah, this thing, why is so slow, bro? Get to him already. There we go.
By the voters in this country, and for me, by the voters in this very province. Mr. President, the weavers and the builders of the Western Cape are ready to play their part to build South Africa, to play their part in supporting this government of national unity. But, Mr. President, we will not only support the government of national unity, we will also make sure that the Western Cape plays its part in building a better future. But at the same time, we have a lot of work to do, and we will also hold, Mr. President, this government of national unity account for the citizens of the Western Cape. Sometimes there will be robust debate, because I am absolutely committed to make sure that at the same time, on behalf of the citizens of this great province, the Western Cape, we do the very best we can to build a better Western Cape while we are building a better South Africa. Mr. President, I want to base everything I do on saying that we need to give everyone an absolute fair chance. And therefore, my first point that I want to raise on behalf of the citizens of this province, the Western Cape, that we need to make sure we get our fair share. Mr. President, we know that this province is currently the fastest growing province in South Africa. We heard that at the Lekgotla from the Statistician General. We know that we are now the province with the third most citizens, the third largest population in our country. But Mr. President, we get the fifth most budget. We need to make sure, and I will fight for our fair share of the budget in this province. Mr. President, but I will also work with the province of Gauteng and the province of KwaZulu-Natal, because they also need to make sure they get the fair share of budget, because we are fast growing. And I promise you, it is education, it is health that feel the brunt, because we have more and more learners and more patients in our hospitals. But Mr. President, I really do welcome the call yesterday. I welcome this government of national unity's positioning that we feel around a massive disaster. As I speak and as we walked out for lunch, it was pouring with rain still in this province. We have had more than a week of solid rain, devastating weather, more than 200,000 citizens in this province displaced because of this weather incident that has now been declared a disaster. More than 44,000 structures damaged and destroyed. Many roads. As I stand here, more than 70 roads still underwater. But Mr. President, it is about disasters. And I must say to Minister Schlabise, to the Deputy Minister, to the way that you reacted to this disaster, there's a new feeling behind this government of national unity, Mr. President. On Friday, we wrote to the Minister saying, this needs a declaration of disaster. On Friday, we got an answer to say yes. On Monday, the Minister and the Deputy Minister came to visit. I want to say thank you very much. There's a new feeling to build a new and better country. But Mr. President, we will still fight in policing. Minister Mchunu, thank you very much for coming to visit us tomorrow, to come to listen, because our citizens feel gangsterism and crime every day. I am still going to work with you, but I'm going to fight for more devolution of power. I do believe it's the right thing to do, and I believe we will base it on data and evidence.
Sorry.
And together, we will come up with solutions that will make it safer for the citizens in our province. Mr. President, I will support you on infrastructure, because if we don't have infrastructure enabling the growth and economic growth of our province and our country, we will not be able to deliver what we need to deliver. And that is electrical infrastructure, road infrastructure.
Honourable Premier, your time has expired.
Do I not get a closing comment, Madam Deputy Speaker?
Sorry, no.
Closing comment.
I can't even do what was done before lunch. I hereby commit, Cape, to building a better South Africa, to supporting the government of national unity, but we will make sure that this province gets its fair share while we are playing our fair part. Thank you very much.
I now call on Honourable the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker, Presiding Officers of Parliament, President and Deputy President of the Republic, members of the National Executive, members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. Quite clearly, our country is standing at a crossroads. On the one hand, we face a tipping point if we maintain the status quo, responsible for South Africa not realizing its full potential. On the other hand, we can positively disrupt the status quo with pragmatic interventions that yield positive outcomes. As the DTIC group, our decision is clear in working to support and enhance the programs instructively outlined by the President in his speech last night. This is important, especially if we calculate the costs of poverty, which constitute 60% of the national budget. The reality is that we have to adopt a mission-oriented approach to industrial policy and strategy as articulated by Mariana Mazzucato. As Mazzucato argues, such a strategy is about co-creating markets instead of fixing markets, and designing reciprocal partnerships around shared goals that produce shared value. She further argues that it requires a view of the state not just as a market fixer, but rather as a market shaper. As such, we must implement with laser focus the program of priorities outlined in the GNU to benefit all South Africans, most particularly the women, the youth, and people with disabilities. If we
You know, sometimes others they just sound like they just made speeches for the sake of making a speech. You know what I mean? There's no impact. There's no there's nothing in it. And I mean, who's this one? Let's try this guy out. As I said, I'm gonna skip now and again. Let's get back to them. What's happening?
They are going to set going forward. President, South Africa faces a cost of living crisis of gargantuan proportions, with rocketing food and fuel prices, while aggressive.
I don't know if this guy is from UDM, right? But for some reason, he looks like Bantu Holomis. Look at his head. This is probably his nephew or his son.
The interest rate hikes erode our people's disposable income. According to a research conducted recently, the annual average of a household food basket has increased by a whopping 64% from 2019 to 2023. And Stats SA General Household Survey showed an indication that in 2022, social grants became number 2 as the source of income for households in our country, which means our people are living in poverty. But what is even worse is that while the 350 rands, which provides our people with a much needed relief, it falls short of the inflation-adjusted national food poverty line, which stands at about 760 per person per month, which means we require the introduction of a basic income grant. In light of the issues and this myriad of socio-economic.
See what I mean when I was saying adults, they are just writing for the sake of writing speeches. You see, this one now, he has an agenda that is sending across things that he's expecting of the new government, what he's expecting of it. And then he's also commanding this government that these are the demands that we need as the nation, as the people of the nation. We don't just need this relief fund, but we need something that is proper, that can sustain people. You know what I mean? That can go as far as to feeding the family, taking a child to school. You know what I mean?
Economic challenges facing the country, such as the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. It is morally difficult to justify a millimoney state that provides no social safety net or security net for the poor. However, a durable solution to our problem in our country centers around the issue you cited yesterday, which is reigniting the economic growth of our country and putting our economy back on track. One of the issues you cited was the importance or the need for the reindustrialization of the South African economy. We support that entirely. Why? Because economic literature is replete with empirical evidence about the relationship, especially the positive correlation that exists between reindustrialization or industrializing and development in the country. However, it means that when we implement the new reindustrialization strategy, it must be done in a non-conventional sense. One, for example, it cannot be the domain of one department. We have to ensure that it requires an intensive coordination across a range of government departments in order for it to work. The other issue is that we need to maintain intersectoral linkages that are important to enhance and inform the robustness of the industrial policy design and implementation across government, meaning it's a mindset, it's not a one-off issue. President, one of the issues which is important for us to consider is where we need to make sure that we maintain our energy independence as much as we're trying to move towards an energy mix, because Without energy independence, you lose your sovereignty as a country. Crime intelligence is a challenge, and violent crime is a problem in South Africa, which requires the attention of South Africa and us to invest money because our people in communities are living in fear. I've cited this in the budget
Honourable
report of
Parkway,
police.
your time is
It's
expired.
worth repeating because that is what is destroying our economies. Thank you.
I now call on the Honourable Zibi.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Mr. President, the Honorable Deputy President, members of the Executive, and honorable members. Mr. President, there is little to disagree with in what you said last night in outlining the matters that need yours and our collective urgent attention. The issues keeping South Africans awake at night have been self-evident for years. The goals we set for dealing with the same are also obvious. Which president would not say they want the best schooling for their country's children to guarantee a better future for them and our nation? Which president would not say they want safe, prosperous communities? And so, Mr. President, you said many of the right things. But it is also true to say that we live in a time that demands more of you and demands more of us in this House. We need a new language that reflects a new attitude on the same issues that are the symptoms of our ills as a society. We are a society where public servants live in fear of getting killed, such as Advocate Nodier, who was doing work for SARS and was shot and critically injured in eThekwini yesterday, in broad daylight. She was shot by assailants who strolled over to their getaway car. The rich walk and drive around surrounded by people armed with firearms bigger than those carried by your protectors, Mr. President. They send a message that says our state is weak and not the center of democratic power it must be. We are becoming numb to human suffering. Millions of people that in today's weather get to confront the depth of the indignity that torments their lives. And that this is where many children are born into inhumanity, grow up in inhumanity, lose
Right. Thank you, Madam Speaker. In view of time constraints, I will simply say all protocol observed. Thank you. In view of time constraints, I rise here on behalf of Umkhonto weSizwe, the party which I lead in Parliament, and the party which was I rise here on behalf of Umkhonto weSizwe, the party which I lead in Parliament, to respond to the speech that was made by the President last night. Our position is as follows. The establishment of the Government of National Unity is singularly a very cruel joke by the Ramaphosa faction of the ANC and the Democratic Alliance, perpetuated against the oppressed and downtrodden masses of our people. Our people are painfully aware that it would be impossible to create a united nation in South Africa unless the legacy of colonialism and apartheid was addressed. For a very long time, South Africans have been constituted by two nations, one black, poor, and economically disempowered and excluded, and the other white, rich, and in command of most of the means of production, material, and incorporeal resources and advantages of our society. These are not my words. These are the words of the former president, Thabo Mbeki. He uttered these words many years ago, and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed fundamentally since Thabo Mbeki made those remarks. My question to you, President, is this. Through what magic do you hope to forge a national unity of the oppressor and the oppressed, the exploiter and the exploited? The rich capitalists and the rich capitalists and the toiling and exploited working class. Our position is very clear. When the ANC could not secure majority, it became desperate, and the government, so-called Government of National Unity, was no more than a desperate and deliberate attempt to hold on to power. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Now, if the ANC formed the so-called Government of National Unity on the basis that it was the largest party, you ask yourself, why was that principle not extended to the province of KZN? It is a fact that Umkhonto weSizwe won the province of KZN convincingly. We know that. That is a fact. That is a fact. Now, if there was consistency in the principle that the party which has the largest majority, one would have expected that to be done in KZN. The students of political science, Mr. President, will tell you a simple fact. You don't form a government of national unity when there is no crisis. A government of national unity is formed when there is a crisis. We had it in 1994 in this country. We had it in 1994 in this country because there was a crisis and we're emerging from apartheid. There is no crisis. The only crisis is that the ANC has lost the majority. Now, we understand why the ANC has lost the majority. And you know it too. What I find striking is this. There were so many parties that campaigned openly against the ANC. There were many parties that said they will never work with the ANC. But when they were offered blue lights, they suddenly fell in love with the ANC. Quite frankly, I respect someone like Minister Gayton Mackenzie, whose views were always clear. He said he will work with any party, and he has been consistent in that regard. There are parties here which campaigned against the ANC, but when the opportunity to be on the gravy train came, they went for it. The MK party is very clear. We are aware that your propagandists have been spreading the lie that a national unity government in South Africa could help deepen democracy because it means no one political party can impose its agenda on all and sundry. But we are not fooled, Mr. President. We are not fools. It is very clear that the DA has a veto power in respect of the so-called government of national unity. The MK party was excluded and denied participation in the sellout GNU because we do not agree with the ANC and the DA racist on many fronts. In our manifesto, we were loud and clear. I quote, "The MK party is committed to transformative change across all sectors of South African society. Our policies are designed to address the most pressing challenges we face today."
Order, honorable members. Can we all be in order and allow the speaker on the podium to proceed?
I will go back to our manifesto. The MK party is committed to transformative change across all sectors of South African society. Our policies are designed to address the most pressing challenges we face today: economic inequality, inadequate access to quality education and healthcare, national security threats, inequitable land distribution, and the need for robust traditional leadership and foreign policies that reflect our values and aspirations. Through our manifesto as the MK Party, we aim to lay down a clear path towards a more equitable, secure, and prosperous future for all South Africans. The restitution of land to Black South Africans remains a yardstick against which sellout ANC and DA-GNU government, against which your performance will be measured. Land has symbolic value to us. It means so much to us. As President Mandela once said in 1995, with freedom and democracy came restoration of the right to land, and with it the opportunity to address the effects of centuries of dispossession and denial. In a similar vein, President Luthuli of the ANC once declared the following. He said, "Without land, there is no dignity." Our own President Umsholozi said the following. Ngesikhathi kufika abamhlophe kuleli bathatha umhlaba wethu bafika nomthetho wabo bazenze unothanda nje. Namhlanje asinamhlaba, namhlanje asinamfuyo, konke kwathathwa ngesihluku. Salwa silwe umhlaba wethu, sizange sivele siwanike abelungu. At this point, I want to recognize our traditional leaders who are here as part of Umkhonto weSizwe, because in Umkhonto weSizwe, we believe that the land belongs to the nation and the land belongs to the people. His Majesty, the King of the Khoi and the San people, Glenn Taiposh. His Majesty, King Dalinjebu Matutu. His Majesty, King Zwelethhu Mthethwa is here. And finally, our own president is a king, Ubabu Zuma. Yes, he is.
Order.
Our position is very clear.
Order.
Our position is very clear.
Honorable members, when we are heckling, we can do so without drowning the speaker. If we want to converse among ourselves, we can also do so without drowning the speaker. Can we please allow the speaker to proceed?
Our position is very clear. Umkhonto weSizwe was formed because we believe that the ANC of Ramaphosa is not capable of delivering. It has failed this man. It has failed the...
Honorable Speaker, can you take a seat? Honorable Ndlozi, what's the point of order?
Thank you, Speaker. There are people in the House, Speaker, who are drowning the Speaker. We never disrupted anyone.
Order, honorable members. I want to hear the point of order. What's the point of order, Honorable Ndlozi?
I'm saying that you are not protecting the Speaker on the podium. He's been drowned.
I've just done that.
Because people are losing their heads here. I don't know.
Honorable
You lost
Ndlozi.
votes, now you are losing
Order.
heads. Listen to the
Order.
honorable judge.
Honorable Ndlozi.
Discipline.
Honorable
Please,
Ndlozi, take your seat.
Protect the
Take
Speaker
your
on the
seat.
podium.
Order, honorable members. When we make points of order, we do just that. We don't have a debate. Can we now ask Honorable Sope to proceed with his speech?
I proceed. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I'm going to proceed.
Order. The Chief Whip of the DA, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I believe during his point of order, the Honourable Ndlozi referred to the Speaker at the podium, the leader of the opposition, as Judge Flope. I don't think that an impeached judge can be called a judge anymore. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order, honourable members. Honourable members, I have ruled, can we all be in order and allow the Speaker on the podium to proceed? Honourable member, you have your point of order.
Well, I'm not going to descend to that level. I've got
Honourable
better titles.
Can you take your seat? Yes, honourable member, what's your point of order? Yeah.
Ngibawa yinto. I know that you are not sitting there as umuntu wakwagogo. Sibawa ukuthi indlu kube ne-order ngoba into leyenzeka nje mase kunomunye in particular ama-racists makakhuluma la will respond with the way they are.
Order, honorable member.
Ujaji Hlophe akaliswe
Order.
our leader ukuthi aqede speech sakhe, please.
Honorable member.
We have listened to uthi
Please take your
azange
seat.
simdisturb, please.
Ngicela ukuthi amalunga ahloniphekile alendlu yesishayamthetho sonke silalelane. Ngikhulumile nani nonke ngathi sicela ukuthi sinikeze umuntu oseqongeni akwazi ukukhuluma. Kodwa nonke uma senikhuluma senixokozela akazukwazi ukuthi simuzwe. Nathi thina ke esimxhasayo ngicela nje ukuthi sonke simlalele. Qhubeka lunga elihloniphekile.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, in 2022, the World Bank reported that inequality in South Africa gave South Africa an unfortunate inequality in South Africa. South Africa is a country which has a problem to do with inequality. It reported that 80% of the country's wealth was in the hands of 10% of the population. And it is the black population who factor most in the poorest category. The report places the blame for the income disparities directly on race. The legacy of colonialism and apartheid rooted in racial segregation continues to reinforce inequality in South Africa, the report stated. This is clear proof that the end of formal apartheid in 1994 did not end the real problems that we have in this country. And against that, I'm asking you, President, how are you hoping to sustain the so-called government of national unity when your interests are fundamentally and diametrically opposed in the so-called government of national unity? As the MK party, we are interested in genuine and real transformation of South Africa. This cannot simply mean having a nice, toothless constitution or so-called world's best constitution. We are not and can never be satisfied with our judges regurgitating Roman law, which was imported into this country through the genocidal force and forced down our throats. When we were colonized, we had our own systems of justice in place. African customary law, which is close to our heart. Colonization brought with it a foreign legal system, Roman Dutch law, and this was done in order to protect and preserve the interests of those who colonize us. I challenge you to tell me a single country in Europe which is governed by African law. A single country in Europe which is governed by African law.
Bro, this is what I've always been saying. This is what I've always been saying. That you won't even find a single country in Europe that is being governed by Africans. A country that it has Africans in it that they claim, just like Orania, just like Cape Town. Like there isn't any, if they are claiming to say they are being fair and equal, why can't we have countries, that are being led by Africans in Europe? Why are we not having land in Europe? You know what I'm trying to say, man. Hlophe has a point. I'm telling you, Hlophe has a point. Wow. Someone saying...
No. If you can't tell me, why do we allow Roman Dutch law, which does not reflect the views and the aspirations of the majority of the people in this country? Why do we allow that to be a system in place? Why? The conclusion is inescapable that that legal system is there to preserve the interests of the privileged white minority in South Africa at the expense of millions of poor black people that we represent in this parliament. It is our considered view that the speech that was delivered by the president yesterday fails on so many fronts. The president mentioned building infrastructure in rural areas. I don't know when that is going to start. He has never done it before. What would make us believe that he would suddenly now focus on rural areas as a priority? Why would he suddenly do that now? We have never done it before, Mr. President. It is our considered view that if we want to bring about fundamental changes, we need to invest in infrastructure, particularly in rural areas. Now, the problem is, where is money going to come from? Because we keep borrowing money every day, Mr. President.
That's true.
Our view is further that we need serious agrarian revolution in this country to turn things around in agriculture. We need agrarian revolution, which has been lacking. Rural areas in the main have not been taken seriously. Whilst
Yeah, it's like jab. These are the jabs. I don't know who's catching them jabs, because he's jabbing like really hard right now. But actually, I know the next speaker is the Minister of Agriculture. So yeah, he's taking jabs. So we'll see what the minister's going to be saying. I don't know, guys. You need to comment, like at least. If you don't want to subscribe, just comment, leave a comment there. And then let's get back to the leader of the MK party, Honorable Dr. MJ Hlophe.
Of the Constitution to be amended. We are not apologetic about our stance. We remain firm. Section 25 of the Constitution must be amended. It is our considered view. Thank you. It must be amended to make provision for expropriation of land without compensation.
Expropriation of land without.
That is the only way we can redress imbalances of the past and ensure that each and every South African has access to land in this country. Once there is access to land, so many of the problems that we have will be dealt with. For example, there will be no influx control. We all know people leave rural areas because they are not developed. They are poorly resourced. They leave rural areas, go to big cities like Cape Town, Durban, Johannesburg, looking for better opportunities. When they get there, there are no opportunities. But if land were to be restored to our people, they will be confined in those areas, provided they are developed. There will be no need for them to leave those areas and go to urban areas. Furthermore, access to land will ensure that everybody has bread on the table. I know there are members in some of the parties who say there is Ingonyama Trust land, for example, in KZN, and that land is not being used. That is clearly a lie. People who live in those areas are not dependent on your 350 rand per month, Mr. President. They are serious farmers. They practice subsistence farming in those areas. They are not dependent on your 350 rand for them to live. So we need to invest in agrarian revolution, make sure we turn things around. The other way of generating job, which is covered in our manifesto, we should reintroduce compulsory military training. That will absorb our young men and women who have no job and teach them to be disciplined. It will immediately turn things around. There is no question about it. We clearly need to reduce spending. It is very clear as a result of this bloated cabinet. It's all about blue lights. It's all about fancy cars. And you have forgotten the reason why you were elected, Mr. Ramaphosa, in the first place. We have forgotten the reasons. You have, to put it bluntly, you have sold out. We in the MK will continue to fight for Section 25 of the Constitution to be amended. We will continue to fight for the improvement of the quality of the life of our people, particularly those who live in rural areas, who are by and large black, and I'm using the term black generically. Until those aspirations, we will continue to fight. We will do it in a peaceful and lawful manner. There are parties here, some of them are in government, in the government of national unity. I've heard some people, ministers, advocating the death penalty. That is unconstitutional, and nobody has said they are acting unconstitutionally. The death penalty was outlawed in this country way back in 1995. Now, to find a cabinet minister advocating death penalty without the constitution being amended is ridiculous. Where we come from in the MK party, we will continue to act within the law, and it is our right as politicians to act within the law so that the law can be changed, so that it will benefit the majority of the people in this country. Until such time that Africa and Africans are free, the struggle will continue. And insulting us and howling at us or pretending that we are talking nonsense is not going to help. As long as the question of land is not being addressed in this country, as long as the question of land is not being addressed seriously, as long as we are being ridiculed, we will continue to fight. That is why, for example, we are challenging these elections results because they were rigged. They were rigged. We know as a fact that we won, certainly convincingly, even in KZN. We know that as a fact. Our results, our votes were stolen and given to certain people who are now comfortably. We will continue with the fight until such time that we get our land back. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Steenhuisen. Honorable Steenhuisen.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Thank you for that wonderfully warm welcome from the Hardy Dar benches. Madam Speaker, Mr. President, for far too long, our country's enormous potential has been held up and held captive by political forces that seek to break down rather than to build
Order,
up.
honorable members. Order, honorable speaker. Honorable Josie, what's the point of order? What is the point of order?
Sorry, Speaker, I was switching on the mic. No, I wanted Speaker respectfully to address this honorable member with his rightful title as a matriculant, seeing that there are confusions of titles today. This is a
Honorable
judge.
Honorable
Now you have a matriculant.
Honorable Josie.
Was that necessary, just?
Honorable members, you have just been into an induction after your election. You were advised what are the points of orders, what are the rules, and it's very disappointing that some of you are doing exactly the opposite. Honorable Josie, you know that was not a point of order, and it's actually spurious. Order, Honorable Stenez, and can you proceed?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I think that the grannies and the pensioners and the Stokvels who had their money stolen from them at VBS don't sleep any better knowing that the people who stole from them have doctorates and master's degrees. You see, time and time again, they've used populist politics and racial rhetoric to break down any attempt at building a consensus over the growth-enhancing reforms that our economy so desperately needs. They have done so deliberately because it is only by sowing division and preventing reform that they can keep institutions weak, keep the taps of corruption flowing, and stay out of jail for their many misdeeds. For far too long, we've allowed those who seek to break our country down for their own personal benefit and gain to hold back the builders who yearn for a South Africa with a growing economy that creates millions of new jobs. At the 2024 election, where the people of South Africa chose a new path, by not giving any party a majority and forcing us to create a multi-party government, offers us the most important opportunity and the most powerful opportunity in recent history to overcome the suffocating grip that the breakers have held on our economy and society. The government of national unity is South Africa's chance to free itself from populism, division, and economic decline. This is our opportunity now to build South Africa into the prosperous country that we know it can be together. And that is exactly what the Democratic Alliance is going to do in government. We're in this government of national unity because we have said loud and clear that we want to build South Africa. We don't want to break South Africa. Last night, the President said, and I quote, "The government of national unity will pursue every action that contributes to sustainable, rapid economic growth and remove every obstacle that stands in the way of growth," unquote. In all of the portfolios where the DA is represented, both in the executive and in Parliament, we're already moving with speed to do exactly that. We have proudly answered the call, Mr. President, to serve South Africa first. And, Mr. President, the DA's Weaver birds are already eagerly at work. In agriculture, we are building a South Africa by partnering with the private sector to enhance biosecurity, extension services, international trade, and to turn the agricultural sector into an engine room of economic growth and job creation. In public works and infrastructure, we're exposing corruption and building the foundations to turn South Africa into a giant construction site that grows our economy. At Home Affairs, we are tackling the visa backlog that you referred to, Mr. President, and reforming the system to bring in the valuable skills we desperately need to build our country. In forestry, fisheries, and environment, we are unlocking funding to get the Just Economic Energy Transition Partnership to build the industries of the future. In basic education, we are restoring the dignity of our children by reducing pit toilets and building the skills of tomorrow. And in communications and digital technologies, we're building a new digital ecosystem to drive the modernization and digital transformation of our society. But it doesn't end there. In finance, trade and industry, energy, higher education, small business development, and water and sanitation, DA deputy ministers are also helping to weave the reforms that we need to grow our economy. In Parliament, the DA Weaver birds are just as busy helping to build the home that we all want. Our portfolio committee chairs are going to drive reforms through the legislature to ensure that we remove all legislative obstacles that stand in the way of unleashing the growth that our country needs. Mr. President, the recent cabinet lekgotla that you convened has given us the key ingredients.
Honourable Sianezan, can you take your seat? Honourable Member, what's your point of order?
Madam Speaker, I'm Visman Reddy from Mkonto Wesizwe Party. I rise in terms of Rule 81, and I seek your guidance, Madam Speaker, in terms of the Speaker's list. The Speaker that's on the podium currently, is he speaking on behalf of the DA or as the Minister of Agriculture? Thank you.
Honourable Member, that is not a point of order. The Speaker's list, the members of the executive also belong to their parties. So that's not a point of order. Honourable Member, you can proceed. Honourable Sianezan, you can proceed.
He may be ready, but I'm able. The Government of National Unity has identified the apex priorities to unleash rapid and inclusive economic growth, to create jobs as our apex priority. To achieve this, we have identified and committed to a responsible fiscal path that reduces the national debt in order to free up more money and resources.
But like, I don't know if I am I don't know if I don't understand something. This guy speaks like they are already doing these things. Seems like he sounds like they have been in this government and they have been making changes. If you guys are listening to the speech of this guy as he delivers it, sounds like they are already making changes. He's talking about national. I thought he's actually talking about the Western Cape. It's like national. Guys, how many metros are you governing, or were you governing? Because that if you are speaking like this, it sounds like these are the things that you guys have done. That means in the previous term, but not in this current term. If you're talking about the current term, then what are you talking about? What is he talking about?
For productive investments. The planned review of the sectoral master plans to identify obstacles to growth, emphasize and focus on our need for exports, slashing red tape, crowding in private sector investment, and these are the key ingredients that we need. We welcome the interventions to expand the basket of VAT-free goods so we can put food on the tables of more South Africans at a cheaper price. Specialized policing units to fight violent crime and the construction mafias. These policy changes are some that the DA has long advocated for, and we believe they will make a meaningful impact on our people. Now, while the Government of National Unity has met the requirement for sufficient consensus outlined in the Statement of Intent, some key matters of economic policy and other issues around how we deal with problems going forward, it is important to acknowledge that there are still some areas of divergence that require attention. This is a natural feature of any multi-party government anywhere in the world. For example, the need for universal access to basic health care for every citizen, regardless of the economic status, is important. And there are some discussions going on about the best way to achieve that, to ensure that we can fast-track it. The same goes for the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill. However, in all of these areas of divergence, which are natural when you bring 10 parties together, I am convinced that we can find a way forward. It will be requiring us to be honest and diligent about where these differences exist and to work in good faith with one another to find solutions in the best interests of all of the people of South Africa. Honourable Speaker, if this Government of National Unity succeeds in delivering on its apex priority of growing the economy and creating jobs, then the builders will defeat the breakers once and for all. And this is because if we rapidly expand growth and job creation, we will diffuse the populist tinderbox that the breakers continuously exploit for their own gain. Let me tell you right now that the single greatest fear of the breakers in this House is that the Government of National Unity succeeds in growing the economy and making South Africa a better place. The greatest fear of the breakers is not that South Africa fails. It'll suit them just fine. If the country goes up in smoke, it'll fuel the politics of division and hatred upon which they thrive. No, the breakers' greatest fear is that South Africa succeeds and our people prosper. Because if that happens, it will destroy the foundation upon which the breakers have built their ugly politics of resentment and populism. But the choice between building and breaking is not ours alone. The creation of the Government of National Unity means that every South African now stands before an important choice. Who wants to be a builder rather than a breaker? And we need those citizens who want to be builders to strengthen the Government of National Unity's hand. To be clear, the Government of National Unity will not be a kumbaya chorus. No multi-party government ever is. And if you've seen successful weavers' nests, you will know quite clearly that things do get noisy from time to time. But this GNU represents the broad interests. And the truth is that the builders in our society have to make this government work, because the parties who sit on the opposite side of the GNU want to break South Africa beyond all repair through their looting, their populism, their Gupta selling out, their VBS looting, and their violence. And so to every South African, I say now is a time for the choosing. Are you a builder or are you a breaker?
Order, honourable members, what is your point of order?
No, Chair. Let me just clarify it first on your table.
Is that a point of order?
No, it's not a point of order.
What is the point?
It's like, no, it's not a point of order. Who's this guy? It's like, no, it's not a point of order. And then they like, what is it then? Let's hear him out. What's happening, bro? Are you okay? Can I ask for a bathroom? Can I please go out? May I please leave? May I please leave the room? It looks like he's gonna ask for like to be excused or something.
Order.
I just want to check if Mr. Steenhuisen, does he really understand what he's saying?
Honourable member, that's not the point of order. Thank you very much. Honourable Steenhuisen, can you proceed? Honorable Nathan, can you
What was
proceed with your
that,
speech?
bro? This is just wasting your time, bro. Come back and say your speech. Finish up your speech, boy.
When you drive north from here, you will find a magical part of South Africa known as the Kalahari. When you get there, you know that the most successful weaver nests are the ones where as many birds as possible work as hard as possible to build and protect their shared home. And whenever they see a boomslang coming in there to try and steal the eggs, they work together to sound the alarm and protect their home. And so it must be for South Africa. To the breakers, to them I simply say that even the wiliest boomslang doesn't stand a chance when 60 million weaver birds unite to build and defend the home that we love. And that is exactly what South Africa must do now. South Africa, are you a builder or are you a breaker?
Order.
Thank you very much.
Honorable Mantashe. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Honorable Mantashe.
Thank you very much. Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, Mamtoko Titiza, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Umerifilwe Mtsweni-Tsipane, the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, the Deputy President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Spokoshe Mashatile, honorable members of this House. We start this debate with a big temptation to engage one another on peripheral battles and emerging battles, rather than focusing on the task at hand. And we've chosen not to succumb to that temptation, Honorable President, and not to play to the gallery, but opted to engage on real important issues.
Honorable Mantashe.
Yeah, it's like, hey, guys, let's not entertain all the opposition and opposing stuff like that. Let's just focus on, let us focus on the status quo. We have to lead the South Africans. We have to provide, and we have to be efficient. I think that's what he's saying. But is that what they were doing the past term that they were given, or terms that were given by the South Africans? Now he's coming here saying, let's focus on rebuilding the South Africa that they broke. These guys coming around taking us for fools up in here. We know they're fools that we never.
Can you take your seat? What is the point of order, Honorable President?
Yeah, the point of order.
Speaker, I wanted to check if it's parliamentary for Honorable Mantashe to put the wrong button in the wrong.
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable Joseph, can you please
I'm protecting the dignity of.
Protecting the dignity of the honorable Mantashe.
Honorable Joseph. Honorable Joseph. Honorable members, can we take ourselves seriously and each other seriously too? This is an important debate, and I don't think it is an honor for each one of us to actually cast aspersion or to actually impugn on another person's character. Honorable Mantashe, you can please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Rosie, for helping me out. Thank you. So the real challenge facing us in this House is to put our heads together and find lasting solution to massive problem facing our country. Shadow boxing is not a helpful approach to that. It's better to be in the ring and battle on real issues. It is in this context that I will focus on one apex priority that the Cabinet of National Unity has announced by the President. I'm focusing on the inclusive economic growth and employment creation. That is quite important. It's a burning crisis for the country. The National Development Plan 2030 enjoins us to eliminate poverty, reduce inequality, and make it a priority for all of us to create employment opportunity for the people of South Africa. If we subscribe to the objectives of the NDP and agree that we have a collective responsibility to address high unemployment, we must therefore put our heads together and come up with formula that will work and ensure employment is created. To this end, I'm going to focus on the primary sectors of the economy. Primary sectors of the economy are important in the sense that it is strong primary sectors that will ensure that there is sustainable secondary and tertiary development in the economy. So those primary sectors are mining, agriculture, and petroleum. Those are primary sectors of the economy. And therefore, in our view, we need to deal with them, address them decisively to set a foundation for secondary and tertiary economic development in the country. And then we must also respond to the outcry of our people that our jobs are being taken by foreign nationals. It's a cry. It is not getting the right interpretation. The reality of the matter is, it is the bottom end of the labor market that needs our attention. For example, we support the visa regime as envisaged to attract skills and investment into the economy. We support that fully. But we say it should be complemented by us paying attention to the fact that at the lower end of the market, we're not paying attention. And that is where the employment crisis is. In other words, we make the point that it is not xenophobic to say, please protect sectors that do not want complicated skills. That will be hospitality. It will be your hospitality, it will be your farm work, it will be your construction. And I'm sure people who took time to monitor the George crisis and disaster, you will know that it exposed our laxity in dealing with construction sector as a sector. And the attractiveness of employers is that those sectors, it's easy to invite anybody at substandard wage rates. And it is this government that has a responsibility to deal with that issue and monitor it. Now, every time I go to a restaurant, I won't mention the names because I normally say it's upmarket when it is not in the upmarket. That is the legacy of being a rural boy. But you go to a restaurant, I hardly get served by a South African. We can't accept that. You go to a farm, including shepherds and actually people who look after livestock in rural areas are attracted from the neighboring countries. And we say we have an unemployment crisis. We must deal with that issue. So, having said that, it is quite important, therefore, that we confront the question of cheap labor being an attractive alternative to employment creation. We must deal with that issue. Now, we must draw a lesson from the mining sector. It's a sector I worked in, which used to have 70% of its workforce from the neighboring countries. Today, that portion is less than 20%. And there is a process that took us to that stage, and that process can be used as a lesson to educate us in dealing with challenges facing our society. For us, in the mining sector, as research sites on addressing obstacles granting mining permits and licenses, we must translate this emergence of new mines irrespective of size. If we accelerate dealing with the backlogs, new mines must be built and people must be employed. We firmly believe that the 400 million seed capital provided by the department working with IDC is a good start, because mining starts with exploration where you discover quantity and quality of a mineral. Then you can mine and then you can process, it goes on. And linked to this is the question of supporting the artisanal mines. We're going to go to the many financial institutions and companies to support that initiative where we train artisanal miners. Many people ask me, what is an artisanal miner? I say it's a miner who uses chisel and hammer to mine. That section of the workforce is going to deal with a problem which attracts illegal mining, sterilizing marginal deposits of the mine. And therefore, those must be used to expand the labor base of the mining industry. Honorable Speaker, our country is endowed with petroleum deposits that are not yet exploited. We appeal to all South Africans to appreciate that our quest for exploration of oil and gas deposits is not a nice to have. It is important to turn around the composition of our economy, and therefore that will translate into the growth of the economy. And it will require another additional intervention. Let's deal with foreign-funded NGOs that block exploration of gas and oil, because that is blocking economic development, and we must confront it and deal with it and allow that. That doesn't mean we are not serious about responsible mining and exploration. Do that, but don't block development, because employment is a function of economic growth and development. So we're making that submission. The justice system must also look into that reality of a view to find solution to these cases up in court, because they go to court. NI, which moved to Cote d'Ivoire, was taken to court 67 times. It packed their suitcases and went to Cote d'Ivoire and made huge discoveries of oil in Cote d'Ivoire. Let's deal with that. The justice system must accelerate the process. We must therefore accept unreservedly the need to resume mining and petroleum exploration. That is conscious preserving the environment while accelerating development. Beneficiation is an issue that has been in our vocabulary for many years, and it is time for it to be implemented practically. Beneficiation, sometimes a nice word, but its meaning is value addition. We must not export raw commodities as they are. We must add value here and not export jobs.
Beneficiation, at first it meant for the crew or the circle of Ramaphosa, and beneficiation meant for the ANC of Ramaphosa. Now you are saying beneficiation when it means the beneficiation whereby only the GNU people would benefit if they aren't benefiting already. Yeah, it's been in your vocabulary for a very long time. That's true, my guy. Beneficiation. That's synonym for corruption. That's what you guys are doing.
But there are interventions that must be done. There are interventions that must be done there. The first one is that for beneficiation to happen, we must have reliable, efficient, and affordable electricity supply. because if you don't have that, beneficiation will collapse. Number two, we should actually have an incentive scheme for beneficiation. Beneficiation is an economic activity in the value chain of mining, and it should be treated as a business. Therefore, incentives are important for that section. That may include granting tax holidays to attract beginning of that sector. It can also mean taxing exports to discourage export of raw commodities. And therefore, we must engage the business to introduce a particular electricity dispensation. For example, there's nothing wrong in developing a commodity price linked electricity tariffs. We did have it in this country. We can look into those alternatives. Now, as we address the question of unemployment and develop framework for inclusive economic growth, we should bear in mind that involving Black South Africans in economic activity is not a favor.
What is it?
Okay, it's not a favor. It is a necessary intervention because for many years South Africans were not active in the economic activity. Therefore, the question of Black economic empowerment and affirmative action is a necessary intervention in the economy. Now, access to land, I'm not talking the same way as Honorable Shope.
What do you mean?
Not the same. But the point I'm making is access to land is a capital
What do you mean if you're not talking the same language that Klopp is talking?
asset for economic.
What you mean, man? What you're talking about? What are you talking about?
Activity. Therefore, it is going to be important.
You say land. It doesn't mean land.
For us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I now call upon Honorable Malema.
Thank you very much. We want to acknowledge the leadership of all political parties that form part of the progressive forces here in Parliament. This includes the leadership of Umkhonto weSizwe Party, the African Transformation Movement, the United African Transformation, and the National Colored Congress. We want to salute the people of South Africa who have rejected the former liberation movement that has enjoyed political power for the last 30 years. Today, that era has come to an end. It is beyond doubt that the former liberation movement failed to turn the political power into economic power. As our forefathers in the liberation struggle in the African continent said, political power without economic power is meaningless. Mr. President, you indeed spoke like a badly wounded buffalo yesterday. You spoke like a given up soul. Nothing inspirational came from that tired speech yesterday. You didn't speak like a person who declined electoral support with 17% to less than 50%. How on earth do you repeat a Sona speech that made you lose elections? You were saying to South Africans yesterday, in so many ways, that you learned nothing out of these historic elections to an extent that you want to continue business as usual. We grew up being told that some of you were collaborators, but we gave you some benefits of the doubt. It was said in this house that you personally wrote a letter to the apartheid police accusing your fellow comrades of planting communist ideas in your head, and we refused to believe that story at that time. It now makes sense that despite the apartheid regime being so oppressive against all freedom fighters, you peacefully and uninterruptedly attended university, and you were given your first job by the ambassadors of apartheid, capitalism, and colonialism. Without a hassle, You bought yourself a first car and a house with the assistance of the Urban Foundation, which was anchored by the Ruperts and the Oppenheimers, while your comrades were sleeping under trees in exile and languishing in jails. We asked ourselves as to how did you form a union of mine workers without being a mine worker? Can't you know? You were the conveyor belt between the workers and the super exploitative mining capitalists in South Africa after the Oppenheimers and Anglo-American had concluded that the mine workers must be organized. Our elders in the struggle have made allegations before in this house that throughout the struggle against apartheid, you were insulated from any form of arrest and harassment by the apartheid system. Towards the end of apartheid, you shockingly placed yourself at the center of the negotiation for the end of apartheid. No one knows how you arrived to be at the center of the negotiations of our liberation. It now explains as to why so many compromises and capitulations were made, leading to a situation where economic power remained in the hands of the white minority.
Malema, can you take a seat? There's an order by the Deputy Chief Whip. Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, you instructed that the Honorable member, Honorable Malema, must sit down before I raise my point of order. Honorable House Chairperson, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, the Honorable Malema is casting aspersion on the President, on the persona of the President. Can he please bring in a substantive motion to support his statements that he's making in the House? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chief Whip. The order is sustained. Rules does make provision that if the member imputes improper motive against another member, you may do that by way of a motion, and therefore that has to be substantiated. And therefore, Honorable Malema, can you then proceed with your speech? I see there's another point of order that's been raised on DA.
Withdrawal.
Thank you, Madam House Chair. Madam House Chair, I rise on a point of order in terms of Rule 92.10, which indicates that when a point of order is raised during the debate, the member called to order must resume his or her seat, and after the point of order has been stated, the presiding offer by the member raising it, the member raising the point of order must likewise immediately resume his or her seat when she has concluded his or her submission. Madam House Chairperson, can I just get clarity on the fact when the Deputy Chief Whip of the ANC raised the point of order, the member at the podium remained standing, and I would just like your ruling on that. Thank you.
Honorable Malema, we have requested that you take your seat, but despite that, thank you very much. As I have ruled on the previous order, that was raised by the Chief Whip, Honorable Malema, can you take your podium and apologize on what you just said? The order of the
I must apologize for not sitting down.
Can you take your seat, Honorable Malema? The order was raised with regards to casting aspersions on the President. Can I be allowed time, honorable members? I will then allow you space. Order, honorable members. The order was raised with regards to the honorable member casting aspersions on the president and accordingly. Honorable members, can you please take your seat? I have not recognized Honorable Shibambo. Can you please take your seat? I have not concluded. Honorable member, can you allow me please to conclude? Honorable Malema, you can take the podium, but please, can you please withdraw or rather not repeat what you have said earlier on as you proceed with your speech? Honorable members, please, can you? Honorable members, honorable members. Honorable Malema, can you sit down? Honorable Shibambo.
On a point of order, House Chair, we are going to forgive you because we are new. You don't know the rules of this parliament. When a point of order is raised, you must specify the rule and the specific sentence or a phrase that you say this is a violation of the rules of the National Assembly. What the Commander-in-Chief is doing is to give a political characterization of a phenomenon. That is a point of debate. It's not casting aspersions. How else do we deal with political questions without giving context to what got transpired where we are now? Where else do we say that except here in this parliament? You can't suppress political debate because of your misinterpretation and misunderstanding of the rules. Please allow the speech to finish. And then when we later on go to Rules Committee, we're going to illustrate to you with proper evidence when we're inducting you that the rules do not say what we're saying that you must withdraw. Please be patient with this process. We're going to understand them when time progresses. Currently, your application is incorrect.
Thank you, Honorable Shibambo. Honorable members, Rule 53 makes provision that if a member makes personal reflection on the member's integrity that are equally offensive or damaging, which cannot be necessarily substantiated. Therefore, that should be done by a way of a motion so that a member can substantiate what he's been saying. At this point in time, Honorable Malema has cast aspersion against the president, which needs to be substantiated accordingly, and therefore the order remains sustainable. Honorable Malema, as you proceed with your debate, can you kindly refrain from making such aspersion? Thank you very much. You may proceed.
I must proceed. Thank you very much. It now explains as to why so many compromises and capitulations were made, leading to a situation where economic power remained in the hands of the white minority, leaving black people with meaningless political power. We can today confirm that it was pure infiltration by forces of darkness. When it was clear President Mandela is not going to make you the first deputy president of the democratically elected South African government in 1994, you threw tantrums and even boycotted his inauguration. The same President Mandela you asked us to celebrate yesterday, you missed the historic moment to do so in 1994 because of personal aggrandizement. Like many people in South Africa, I stood here in this house and said we will give you the benefit of the doubt, believing that the allegations against you of being a collaborator might not be true. I will tell why I'm giving you this personal account. It is necessitated by your activities, actions, and decisions over the past weeks since the electoral defeat of the former liberation movement, which demonstrated clearly that in the battle against neo-apartheid and neo-colonialism, you chose the side of the oppressor like you did in the past, yet pretending to be with us, the oppressed people. Why will the apartheid beneficiaries say that among all black political leaders, you are the only one they can work with, to an extent that you are called a better black with a better accent, and you believe them over us? They call us criminals who must be arrested, whether we have committed any crime or not, because we disagree with them politically, and you believe them over us. Your own brothers and sisters who come from Shawela and vendor with you are today looked down because of you. You have committed to be a representative of the oppressor. The white capitalist establishment is willing to turn a blind eye to even serious allegations of wrongdoing against you, because through you, they believe that they will perpetuate the exploitation of the oppressed class and reverse the gains of the political freedom attained in 1994. It doesn't matter what you say, but we want to state categorically that the coalition between the Democratic Alliance and the Former Liberation Movement is a sellout position typical of collaborators who sacrifice and compromise the struggle against apartheid and colonialism. White minority arrogance has increased under your term of office. You should have seen them yesterday when you were speaking. It was like you are a true Tabaneka Koko Helen Zili. You boldly take these counter-revolutionary and reactionary decisions because you know you have a full protection of white capitalist establishment. All the things you said yesterday are meaningless because they are exactly what you said in the 6 State of the Nation addresses you have given since you became president in 2018. None of the commitments you made during this State of the Nation addresses have been met. You state here that the vision you are operating under is still the National Development Plan Vision 2030, whose targets have never been met and will never be met. The NDP had targeted to create a certain number of jobs, but joblessness has increased. The NDP target was to reduce unemployment by 14% in 2020, but today unemployment is 32.9% and more than 12 million people are jobless. Even if you meet the target tomorrow of achieving 14% unemployment, the fact of the matter is you miss the target here. The NDP target was to reduce poverty from 39% by 2030, but poverty today is more than 50%. More people live on poverty under your presidency than any other period in the past 30 years. The NDP target was 10% of the GDP for infrastructure investment, but between 2010 and 2022, public sector infrastructure investment was not more than 5.8%. The NDP target was to grow the economy by an average of 5.4% for it to be practical to achieve any of the NDP goals. But in the past 10 years, the economy has not grown by more than 2%. Mr. President, yesterday you shocked all of us and will never recover from that shock. You said nothing about international relations while we are living in a world defined by shifting global balance of forces. The West, under the guidance and protection of the United States of America, is agitating for a world war, which will be defined by recolonization of the African continent and the global South. And you never said anything about that. There is an ongoing aggressive war by apartheid Israel over Palestine, and you never said anything about that because your coalition partners are all fanatics of a Zionist apartheid Israel. Shame on you that you said nothing about the genocide committed right in front of us because Ulabaposo. You chose glory over the dying children and women of Palestine because you are scared to offend your coalition partners. President Mandela, a close friend of President Arafat, who you said we must celebrate yesterday, should be turning in his grave. The trade embargo against Cuba is still intact, and despite the fact that Cuba played a role in the struggle against apartheid, you never said anything about that. There is instability in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and South African soldiers are dying in that war, and you never said anything about that. There is a real threat of instability in the entire SADC region, and you never said anything about that. There is loss of life in South Sudan, but you had nothing to say about that. The BRICS Forum has been joined by additional countries such as Saudi Arabia, Ethiopia, Egypt, Argentina, Iran, and United Arab Emirates. And you never said anything about how South Africa should maximize these strategic relations to grow the economy. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, is agitating for a world war through its admission of Ukraine into NATO alliance. And you never said anything about that. This is happening while South Africa has discovered strategic oil and gas natural resources, which in itself, Minister Mantashe, is a cause for global security. But your president said nothing about that. Even if the global balance of forces does not matter to you, there is nothing tangible you said about the high levels of crime happening in South Africa. In the past year, South Africa had more than 27,000 murder cases, and you never said anything about that. Are we being handed over to the imperialist takeover as South Africa? Mr. President, there are more than 300,000 students who have passed and attained their certificates, diplomas, and degrees, but all universities and universities of technology, huge amounts of money. We must cancel student debt and introduce free decolonized education now. You claim to have created 2 million jobs through your presidential employment stimulus, but there are no additional 2 million jobs that were created since you took office in 2018. And if you want to argue this point, go and argue with Stats SA. Another issue we need to highlight is that Kusile Power Station added an additional 800 megawatts into national grid 2 weeks ago. You never mentioned anything about that. Instead, you chose to mention 256 megawatts of unreliable energy by independent power producers, which was plugged into the grid in the Northwest Province. This is an evidence that in addition of selling fictional buffaloes at Palapala, you are also a salesperson for independent power producers. These independent power producers were at the center of why South Africa experienced perennial load shedding for years until 2 months before the elections. The land which our people desperately needed for human settlement, agriculture, public service, and business was left in the hands of the oppressors. Our people were told about willing buyer, willing seller, in a situation where violence and genocide were used to learn dispossession of the Khoi, the San, and all indigenous people of our country. We'll amend Section 25 of the Constitution in our lifetime to allow expropriation of land without compensation. South Africa, our country is being traded. We, the progressive forces, need to constitute an alternative radical agenda. Let us do everything in our power to rescue our country from being traded on a silver platter. We call on all workers' movement, civil society, religious leaders, and traditional leaders to reject this grand coalition led by DA under the pretense of the so-called government of national unity. We, as the EFF, will not form part of a factional and a decoy of the so-called national dialogue, which happens after the government has already committed budgets and programs to this agenda. We are not in the business of talk shows. We are in an agenda to realize through economic emancipation of our people, and no matter what it takes, we will never associate with the collaborators and the sell-out agenda of the establishment. Erikele Buche, nonyana paku ebya lile tiye,
everything that this guy said about Ramaphosa is true. I'm telling you. I'm sorry that I've been talking and then my mic has been off and then muted. But then again, is this just a speech or it carries an agenda that is actually going to be implemented? I don't know. Let's just go find out.
a re thuše ke maru a o tla bosele motho wa o ba le matric wo a sankang a ba subjected to a peer review comes here and calls us VBS looters. I understand actually sitting with VBS looters themselves in the government of national unity. The same matriculant is a beneficiary of the loot of 20 billion of Steinhoff that was invested by public investment, by PIC. No amount of silence us, not even that can silence us, because minimum voice has multiplied. Ours is a generational mission. We shall overcome. Victory is certain. We want to tell you now, your days are numbered. Thank you very much.
Order, honorable members. I now call upon the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, Your Excellency the President, Honorable members of the 7th Parliament, the past few weeks have been a whirlwind of activity. Parliament has changed, portfolios have changed, cabinet have changed, and the government have changed. The people of South Africa who went to the polls on 29 May placed the future of our country for the next 5 years in the hands of a coalition government. Up front, I must declare that the IFP is committed in making the government of national unity stable and successful, for it is the result of the will of the people of South Africa. The GNU is not about politics, but is about the will of the people and the future of our country. We campaigned and expressed our views to the electorate, but the electorate in response said, work together. Your Excellency, the IFP has been frank and honest about the state of our country and the needs of our people. For 29 years, the IFP, led by Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, remained in this house as a voice of reason, urging those in power to do the right thing. The late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, whether he spoke as a leader of a constructive opposition or as a minister of cabinet or as an acting president of the republic, he taught us in the IFP of the duty we have to speak loudly on behalf of the people. We will continue.
Actually, this guy is saying the GNU is not about politics, but what is it about? Because it's made out of political parties and also it's a political outcome, and also it's kind of like saying the citizens said no, work together. Did we say that? Okay, how come then parties that have a big chunk of votes are not part of the GNU? They work together, government. Nah, man, come on, IFP, get out of here. What you talking about? What you be on about, my guy? What you be on about? What's he talking about? Like literally.
To play that role constructively in the GNU for the good of our country. The GNU is a bold
what? What is it? Bold.
and necessary step in the right direction.
A necessary step.
We have repositioned South Africa to embark on a journey of rebuilding herself and the future of our generation and the generations to come. The real work of changing the lived reality of every South African must proceed with utmost haste. The change that voters demanded needs to be practically seen, felt, and experienced in the next few months. The IFP welcomes the plan laid out yesterday evening by the President in pressing the reset button and opening a new chapter for our country under a collective wisdom, skills, and capabilities of leaders who chose to work together for the sake of the people of South Africa. The IFP welcomes the position taken by the President about a review of the municipal funding model to ensure that municipalities can become fully functional. This will mark a turning point in our history's 30-year history. As we build on the foundations laid, let us build with new energy. The IFP believes that the local government is a critical sphere of government to impact the lasting development and change in the lives of the people of South Africa. It is for this reason that Cocta's budget speech this week was themed, open quote, every municipality must work, close quote. As the Minister of Cocta, I am determined to see all municipalities receive the administrative, technical, and financial support needed to become viable, able to deliver, and able to maintain the infrastructure, because that is what is mandated to do. I also thank the President for his commitment to appoint the political champions of the district development model to fast-track the one-plan solution. With the DDM institutionalized, champions working tirelessly, and Cocta playing its role, we will ensure that every municipality works. Because traditional and cohesion leaders are key role players in a stable democracy, the IFP will champion the interest and deepen the working in partnership with the traditional and cohesion leaders. Honorable members, climate change has placed us in a challenging times. Disasters are happening in rapid succession, necessitating a new approach to disaster management that is proactive, less bureaucratic, and timeous. The IFP is committed to the continued development of a new approach in dealing with disaster management. This week, I undertook assessment visits to areas in the Cape Metro and KwaZulu-Natal where communities have been devastated by floods and fires. Our deepest condolences remain with all who have lost loved ones in these disasters. As the Line Function Minister for Disaster Management, I gained clear insight from these victims into the needed interventions, enabling us to engage with communities, with multiple departments, putting together solutions. The government of national
Honourable
unity
Minister, can you please wrap?
must be revealed as a responsive, empowering force for good. It must work as the IFP has always done, hand in hand with the people. The IFP is committed to a national dialogue to address social cohesion, landlessness, and the growing gap between the rich and the poor. We are committed in creating a stable GNU that is responsive and delivers. This is the commitment of the IFP to the people of South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you.
Was that a speech or he has an agenda? President, I thank you for everything that you've done for me and everybody. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. This reminds me of who's this guy now? Come on, bruh. Everybody knows this, but he was on panel saying talking about speeches. Listen to these guys. They just play with us. They're not saying much. They're not saying anything. Bah, 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 bah. He's saying what he thinks people wants to hear. Bah, 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 bah. Da, 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 da. Bah, 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 bah. Who's next?
And now upon Minister of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the House. Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Chairperson and Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Your Excellency President Ramaphosa, Your Excellency Deputy President of the country, Deputy President Mashatile, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen. In 2010, a group of young people who were leading the ANC Youth League at that particular time went to Zimbabwe to go and do a study, and they had an opportunity to meet with the late President Mugabe. And one of the things that he left, and I was part of that delegation, and some people, of course, that are no longer in the ANC, we were told something that I felt that has actually guided some of us in agreeing and celebrating the government of national unity. The late President Mugabe said to us, when he went to visit President Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, he said, you must never sacrifice principle at the altar of political expedience.
Honorable
It
Minister,
is for this reason.
there's a point of order. Can you kindly take your seat? Honorable Dlozi. Can you take your seat, Minister?
Do I take a seat? Okay.
Minister, who led the delegation to Zimbabwe?
Honorable Dlozi,
Can you give us
please
on the
take a
record,
seat?
please
That's
take
not
South
important.
Africans into confidence as to who led the delegation to Zimbabwe
Honorable
of the
Dlozi, can you
ANC
please
Youth
take
League?
your seat? Allow the minister to continue with his speech.
I will not answer that. And he did say that in order to guide us politically, so that in our plight to grow in politics, we must always remember what constitutes a principle. In this regard, Excellency Mr. President Ramaphosa, I would like to congratulate the members of the GNU because they did put their political differences aside, came together to build a government that would then now take South Africa forward. They forgot whatever it is that they believed against each other and said that, what do we need to do to serve South Africa? What do we need to do to ensure that South Africa move forward forward, and we do respect the electorate that put us where we are. So congratulations, Mr. President. Congratulations to the members of the GNU, because in most cases, GNUs are constituted over a long period. With ourselves, it was constituted within a month. So for that, I would like to say you did very well. You stick to principle, and that's what needs to guide us and make us move forward. Honorable members, in April 2024, 30 years of democracy was actually celebrated. We did that by commemorating this milestone when the President launched a 30-year review report on the 8th of May 2024, and that report represents the government's assessment of progress made from 1994 to date. The review was based on a set of 13 thematic goals that were identified by the National Development Plan. And these priorities were actually also done in the city.
One of those. Just pleasing the president and pleasing everybody else in the GNU. But what are you saying? What are you talking about, lady?
Administration. On the 30-year review and social transformation, the orientation of the public service has shifted from serving the minority to serving all sections of the population.
All sections of the population.
Consequently, in 2022, the number of households by access or with had access to electricity, piped water, sanitation, and that one has increased in 80%. This has removed millions of households from deprivation, thereby improving indicators of multidimensional poverty index and the Human Development Index. South Africa's social wage is one of the most comprehensive in the world and has proven to be an effective anti-poverty tool. The social wage covers all healthcare services, free water and electricity for the indigent, free schools, public housing, school nutrition, and early childhood development. And this has expanded financial support for students at universities and TVET colleges through the NSFAS. Priority 2 that the President has spoken about in the MTDP has actually spoken to this, and we will be building on top of what we have already done before in the 30 years to ensure that our people are served. Our country is moving towards a universal access to education at all levels, and it has improved overall educational outcomes and skills development opportunities, resulting in an improved population level educational outcomes, such as the literacy and levels of educational qualification per age cohort. These are important pillars for a modern knowledge-based society. Equally, we have improved access to healthcare and are now working towards an ambition of universal access to health. Among others, the expansion of clinics, hospitals, and the healthcare infrastructure, increased primary healthcare has already serviced more people, and it has also included the fact that we are almost accessing what we have set for ourselves. We have also seen that there are a lot of healthcare diseases that has reduced, such as the AIDS-related deaths. The National Development Plan remains our lodestar, and the long-term plan as adopted by Parliament in 2012. Its goals are the eradication of poverty, reduce inequality, and reduce unemployment. The 10-year review of the NDP highlights sports, arts, and culture.
Honorable Chair, Madam Speaker, Honorable Cyril Ramaphosa, Honorable Deputy President, Paul Mashatile. President, let me thank you for making sure that what our people were fighting for during the election, that it found expression in the plans of the GNU. There is now, we have the Sovereign Wealth Fund. We're speaking about the issue of minerals being exported, and most importantly, gang violence. You have listened to us, President, and I would have been a sellout if I was sitting outside. My people walked in the rain, they did door to door for their issues to be represented.
Take your seat. There's a point of order, Honorable Joseph.
I'd like to call a point of order, House Chair, because a government minister cannot deliberately mislead the House. There is no sovereign wealth fund in this country. You must withdraw. There's no such a thing. At this stage where you are, it's not those talks by the streets you are having. You must speak facts on behalf of a government. There's no sovereign wealth fund in this country. You must withdraw. Take us serious here.
Honorable Minister, can you please proceed?
Your peers, you always talk about education, Honorable Ndlozi. Your peers are delivering papers. You are ice boy being sent around. Now come to me. Don't tell me about education. I want to thank you, President.
Actually, I don't know why I keep on muting my mic though. Snap. So I guess you guys didn't hear what I just said. What I was saying is that this guy, I understand him now, why he's part of the GNU, because earlier on, Judge Lopez said that he also understands, he gets him. He singled him out of the rest of the others who said they will never work with the ANC, but they are part of the ANC now. But now this guy is a different story because he said he is willing to work with anyone. And then came the opportunity, and then he did work with the ANC that has a group of other political parties to form this GNU. But also remember that this guy, he also mentions or emphasizes the fact that now he is part of the GNU, because if he was, he wouldn't, or if he didn't become part of it or form part of the GNU, that would have meant he was a sellout, because his people, like his followers, went out door to door trying to campaign for votes, and then they got votes, and then they at least wanted to be a part of the government, and then the opportunity came, and then he became the part. So yeah, I understand Gaten, and big ups to him. And then he's also kind of like he did hit the ground running, and he's already like acting, he's already like implementing, because I'm quite sure why he's so good at being practical, because I can tell he was like, maybe he went to a practical school. I don't know, but yeah, you can tell that he's not much of a person who likes reading but he likes acting. So yeah, it's chill. Even though Ndlozi is trying to just, poke at him, look at this guy, composure. This will, he's a potential, right? He can be a president. This one, yeah. I'm telling you guys, just watch this.
President, one man was calling me, one gentleman at the airport was calling me a racist. And I asked him, why are you saying I'm a racist? And he said, whenever you speak only about colored people, it's colored people. And I engaged him. And President, let me tell you, the issues of colored people has not been addressed yet. And I want you to be the first president, honorable, to address the national question. All presidents were scared to address the national question. If you can address the national question, you shall be the first. I want to tell the GNU, what we have achieved is remarkable. It is the best thing that could have happened to this country.
He wants the
And I will tell you a secret. The only reason why they call us sellouts, because they are not on the GNU train. They bought the wrong ticket. President,
they are jealous.
Want to tell you, I salute you, because what you have done, you have put South Africa first. We've had many differences between us. You put that aside and you say, my differences with Mackenzie cannot stop me from taking a decision for the benefit of this country. And I want to salute you. I want to say to the Honorable Judge Slope, I want to say to Honorable Judge Slope, I'm sitting there and I'm shocked.
Do better than the lady.
Because you, Honorable Judge, have sent many of my old friends to jail with Roman Dutch law, which you enjoyed.
That's a twist though, because wow, this guy, what the hell? Remember, Kloppe earlier on was like saluting this guy, and then this guy is like, I salute you. And then after that, it's like, boom, Roman Dutch law. You enjoyed it. And he did.
While you were getting you talked about the blue lights.
Talk about the blue lights.
While you were getting the perks of...
The perks of one. Yeah, he's coming on Kloppe like that. Like, why? After Kloppe said he salutes him. And then the next day...
The judge, being a judge, you never saw something wrong.
You're enjoying the perks of being a judge. You never seen something wrong with the Dutch law or you
blue light was you never saw something wrong with.
But then again, my guy, Kloppe, that's why they kicked him out, because it was kind of like sidestepping this Dutch law and stuff like that, caucusing against it. So they were like, hey, you, what are you trying to do? Trying to influence the judge.
Was blue light was you
the longest stream I've ever had, bro, like 2 hours. I think I gotta stop now after this guy. Who else is next that I didn't hear or check out?
Never saw something wrong with Roman Dutch law. Today, when you're no longer there, Now you are seeing something wrong with her. It cannot be. I'm going to pay for an appeal for everybody that has been sentenced by you, because you sentenced them with the wrong law according to you. Thank you very much, Honorable.
Order, honorable members, order. I now call upon the Minister of Correctional.
Charges, I think. Yeah. When they were sabotaging, when they started to sabotage Slope, that was
Services.
my guy, I don't have time for you, guy. I think I saw this guy earlier. Yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you, man. See you next time. Thank you for watching. Otherwise,
Order, honorable members, order. Can you please take your seats, honorable members? Honorable members, there's no speaker on the floor. What are you rising on?
Chairperson, there needs not be a speaker on the floor for me to raise an order. I hope we can agree on that. So I'd like...
You can proceed.
Thank you very much. The judge has written a thesis when he was on the bench, attacking Roman Dutch law.
Honorable Josie.
Your illiteracy not going to help us.
Can you please sit down?
This judge
Honorable
has
Josie.
written papers against Roman Dutch law when he was on the bench.
Can you take the
You come here and you lie. You lie. This judge spoke about decolonization of the law from the bench. Don't lie here, man. Must read extensive, well-researched papers that are peer-reviewed. Yes, yes. And he didn't say anything about sports, about arts. He gets there.
Honorable.
But what's going to happen about the arts?
Honorable Josie. Honorable members, can I bring it to the attention of the House? Members, please don't abuse your privilege or your right to raise the point of order. What we've just seen